Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Sister-in-Law, Part 3, Page 8. Um, with this one, I actually started this part uh, a while ago. I think there's a couple of videos for some of the earlier pages in this part. Those were done months ago. As if you're kind of following along, I was going to do this one and Shrimp of the House Recall, and we're waiting for this to react. There we go. Almost kind of simultaneously. The original idea was to do one part from this one, then one part from Shrimp of the House, part two in this one, part two in Shrimp, and so on, and just kind of alternate between them. But it's sort of, I ended up kind of on a roll with Shrimp of the House. Plus, there was something that in the back, there was something in the back of my head that was telling me to finish that one. Oh my god. Come on. I've had the sort of the laptop sitting idle for a while, so now Windows is having an issue. Windows is throwing its usual fit, having to work after a rest. So this is like really lagging all of a sudden. When I was working earlier, I didn't have these problems, but oh my god. Plus, I've got another version of DAZ Studios open. I'll show you that. I'll kind of show you that in a little bit. So I think it was, I hate to really say I lost interest in this one. God, come on. And this is why when Windows can't handle the program. It's not as though I don't have enough memory and RAM, a strong enough chip to handle this. It's always Windows. Oh my god. But seriously. Zoom in and make sure we don't have any problems before. So I ended up doing just knocking out Shrimp of the House Recall. And coming back to this one, um, like I said, I had started part 3 right after doing part 2 of Shrimp of the House, and I got like 5 pages in, and it was just driving me nuts. This is it's as of the time I'm recording this and working on this. This is basically the day after I put Recall up on Patreon for you guys. So this is the first day back working on this story. Progress actually hasn't been that bad. I feel like I've been procrastinating all day, and yet I'm still not that much under production compared to what was going on before. Let's raise this up a little so I got room for a word bubble. So I think this is 42, right? I just changed that. Oh my god, what is this? Oh no, actually, hold on. Okay, no. He's actually at a different size, so this is 3101. Okay, let's render that one and come over here. Control C on that. And of course, the first 2 pages I was working on today went reasonably fast, but now that I'm recording, I'm sure this one will probably go slow as heck. Just because. Let's see, what did you say? Caps. Um, let's stretch this out. Let's see how. Oh my god. Maybe get that. Oh my god, no. Actually, hold on. If yeah, okay, that works. That's a little better. Control C on that. Edit pieces of layer. But I think this project suffers from sort of the same thing that every other project does. That the progress moves at sort of one pace, sometimes slower than I'd like. Yeah, there's usually a lot of waiting because I'm just waiting for these pictures to render, and there's not much I can do until they do finish. Let's see, so oh my god, yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like earlier, this would have been further along. Let's bring up. See, I mean, it's taken all the CPU, but that's not unusual. Okay, so let's see if I can. I'm not going to be able to go into this one, am I? Ugh. I'm sort of in the other instance of Daz. I opened up. Oh my god. Oh, huh? I opened up the file for David's house from Shrimp of the House Recall. Um, if you followed along in those videos, you might remember in that last part, I was doing it a little bit out of order. So I was saving um, separate versions of the set for different parts of um, of the story in case I had to come back. I didn't have to completely restage, redress everybody, that sort of thing. So this is the ending. It's kind of while I'm waiting for that, what I'm hoping to do is come in here. Let's delete. I'm just going to delete everything I don't need because I'm not going to save this when I'm done. Pretty much what I'm looking to do is just sort of something while waiting for those pictures to render instead of like going off and getting lost and forgetting to come back. The constant distractions because you go off and do something else. So, oh my god. So the idea is what I've kind of wanted to do is sort of create some quote unquote pictures from the dance, quote unquote, that Allison and Logan were leaving for at the end of the book. The idea being that what else do we want? Actually, we're going to delete everything. The idea being that I sort of wanted the pictures for decoration in her room in future, for the future story. Oh my god. So I thought while waiting for this to render, oh look, it's there. One of the things I was looking to do was just kind of come in here and um, basically stage those so-called dance pictures. And because all I need are the characters, I'm just going to delete. I should be deleting everything. Well, I don't really have the two characters dressed up, saved by themselves, so I've got to come in here and pull them out of the set in order to use them. But it's probably easier to just delete everything but them rather than save them and then clear this out and open a new file. Okay. So they're going to be in unused. Let's see, Aiden. Get rid of Aiden. Let's get rid of Rachel. Let's get rid of Jackson. So it's really what I'm doing here is nothing specific. I'm just kind of creating pictures, and I should be, honestly, I should be creating new family pictures for the walls. You know, as the kids get older, as the family gets older, and that sort of thing, but I don't. You know, and the other thing that I should be looking at, you know, I'd like to do is I should create graduation pictures for Alex, but I don't really have a cap and gown to put him in. I'll delete this in one fell swoop. I'm going to keep the clothes for now. So let's pair them. But okay, actually it won't be much longer now, I think. But oh, it's sort of like coming to the end of Shrimp of the House Recall. I found myself just kind of unwittingly brainstorming the next one in the series. Um, it's not exactly one I'm planning to do next. I had another, so there was another potential project in line after Sister-in-Law, but it looks like now that one might be delayed. You know, it's again, I don't really want to announce what it is yet. It's like, A, I kind of want to keep it a surprise, but B, there's the possibility it might fall through as well. Not that I'm expecting that scenario, but you know, whenever I say, you know, it's like it never fails. Whenever I say something is going to happen, it doesn't. Or like whenever I kind of expect something to happen in a certain time frame, it never happens. So I guess in a way, I don't want to jinx it. Basically, promise something and then it doesn't quite happen when it's supposed to. But then again, it's hard. I can't say 100% for sure, but here we go. Okay, or not, but where I'm expecting sister-in-law to take at least to the end of this month. It's possible, like it's possible, like I could end up working through the delay for the next project and start working and be able to work on that. But then again, I'm not sure. If not, then the next shrimp of the house, I'm pretty sure the way my mind is working, the next um oh shoot, I see what just happened. I thought these were already in the folder. Okay, so let's take these out so they don't drive me nuts, and then we're going to try this again. 3101. But it's like I said, I find myself really brainstorming on the next trip of the house story. And and it's sort of like, I guess the core story isn't really changing that much. It's sort of a lot of stuff around it is kind of going in directions I never imagined. Like in my head, I should say. So I know I've talked about it in some of the videos at the end of for recall, but it's what I'm looking at, and I think what I'm looking at is this is going to be the summer story for year 4. Oops, what just oh my god. Okay. So I think this time, like, to do something different, well, I've not, I think, but basically the story is going to be the Smith family goes on vacation. And I'm thinking, so I want that one, go over there. So I think the idea is they're going to go camping. This one look. Maybe not, but I'll keep that one in mind. Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's the idea is they go camping, and I'm thinking if I go in the direction that I'm really thinking of going, I think Jackson's going to find another size changer on the ground that somebody at some point dropped and lost or whatever in the past. Let's see. And while I don't really have specifics about how it's going to happen, I think he's going to end up shrinking a number of the family members, possibly including himself. I'm not because I'm not sure on the specifics yet, but and let's see. And it's going to be more of I think more of an adventure. Maybe insert a little more danger than I usually do, as they're trying to get to wherever the size changer is. Is they're like maneuvering through the oversized forest. To try and get to either get back to the size changer or get to whoever took it slash has it, whatever, and get them to undo it. Oops, come on. And like I said, it's so not really. It's not really a story with like the family issues that I use a lot of times. So it won't be like Recall where that they're dealing with stuff outside. It'll be, like I said, more of an adventure where they're shrinking and trying to wade their way through the forest. Um, and I think it's Alex is going to be absent from that story because if he's starting his new job, oops, that's not the one I wanted. Because the idea is he's going to start his new job, and I think, like, unfortunately for him, the training class started almost right after he got the job. So, oh my god. So he's not able to go on vacation. So I think the idea is he's not able to go on vacation, and I think that's going to lead to a separate story, sort of a separate story, so to speak, where I think I'm going to run a separate story where, like, he's home alone. Uh, the idea is he's looking forward to having the house all to himself. Like, for the first time in his life, there's no, um, there's like nobody in the house with him. He's like nobody to bother him. He can do what he wants, and it's and as he comes home from class on, let's say, Friday. He's looking forward to having that alone time over the weekend while, with no sort of training slash classes on the weekend. He's got the whole weekend off, so he's looking forward to it. Let's see. Oh, I want Allison. Take Allison off. Let's see. Save files. Let's see if I've got a nice curtain. Oh my god. What is this? If I take off context, curtains plural? Oh, I'm in products, not files. Damn it. Okay. This one might be a possibility. Maybe this one. Maybe we load both of them and see. Hmm. Take that one off a moment and let's see what this one looks like. It's like what I've been brainstorming on this one, and I've probably been brainstorming this one more than the other story. But the idea is like he's looking forward to having the house to himself. Whoa, that's a big curtain. Actually, that might be the. Yeah, okay, that's what I want. I'm gonna change the texture. So he's looking forward to having the house to himself, but he kind of quickly gets bored being alone. Let's see. Not sure this is. Yeah, maybe that's good. Kind of quickly gets bored being by himself, so he starts calling his friends. So the idea is he starts calling his friends to come hang out with him. But the problem is, all his friends are, they're all basically heading off to college, so they're kind of busy this particular weekend, sort of getting ready for it, and everybody basically shoots him down. And he ends up where his last choice is Simon, the nerdy kid that's been tutoring him. And instead of taking no from Simon, he kind of pressures him. He kind of exerts enough pressure to force him to cave and come over. Um, I'm contemplating the idea, and I'm not sure how it'll play out, but I'm contemplating the idea that his girlfriend comes over with him. It's been like so long since I used her, I can't even remember her name, but let's see. I'm not exactly sure what I've got that might be useful in this to dress this scene up for an image, but we're gonna see. So, like I said, I'm toying with an idea that something like this, like ancient ruin. Keep that in mind, but that is way up the top. So, and again, I'm not sure at what point. It's whether or not she comes over with him or she comes over later. Sort of both have their merits, but it's like he comes over and it's like a little uncomfortable, but it's sort of like he's sort of a little uncomfortable hanging out with Alex, and Alex is probably having more fun than Simon would like. And at some point, he finds where Liz has her size changer hidden, which is why, which is why in the camping story, Jackson has to find a discarded one on the ground that doesn't belong to her. So the idea is Alex is gonna find her size changer and have a little fun with Simon by using it not to make him smaller, but to make him bigger. And again, it makes Simon even more uncomfortable, um, but he kind of goes with it because like there's nobody there to see it until maybe like that's why maybe have his girlfriend come over later instead of with him. Oh shoot, those planters are one prop, aren't they? Instead of I was hoping it was a grouping so I could move them closer. Okay, so let's delete those. So it's the idea is like he's uncomfortable. It's like weird for him, so he's uncomfortable, but he goes along with it because he doesn't think anybody's gonna see him like that. And then it's like that's when people start coming over. So I'm thinking like his girlfriend happens to stop by. And one thing I kind of wanted to do, and I might do it, is this something I can use? I don't know. Okay, why is this? Um, hmm. Oh, I see. Hmm. I wonder if this is something I can put in here. So it's kind of like one thing I was thinking of doing was, oops, I didn't want to move him. Was sort of have Chet home for the summer and do a sequence where, I don't want the panels. Do a sequence where he and Alex, where he gets together with Alex and they kind of catch up, kind of fills Alex in on on how college has been going for him. Okay, I guess I'm going to be doing two of these. The idea is, okay, and then another one. I kind of wanted to do a scene where like we see chat and he kind of fills him in on how college has been going. They play catch up because you know if you kind of remember from some of the earlier stories, Chet's a year ahead of Alex, so he's already gone off to college. So I thought it would be kind of an interesting at some point to have them catch up. So that's another possibility is like just out of the blue, Chet comes knocking on the door, and it's like they're ending up catching up with Giant Simon. 34. It's sort of like the idea would be that, or for the idea for the story would be that I think if I'm gonna make the main story with them on with the vacation part of the story, kind of a more serious, little bit more of a dangerous adventure than like having Alex at home being stupid and goofy would sort of provide the comic relief. But I'm kind of torn because ideally I would like to have it like interspersed, but I really don't know. My eyes can't see. There's the line. It's kind of like I'm not really sure if I can space them properly. Not sure if that kind of makes sense. If you end up having more fun with Alex's story than you expect, and it doesn't, and it kind of doesn't get it's sort of the two don't get matched up properly, or you end up having like more Alex stuff than you thought, or less Alex stuff than you thought, that sort of thing. So the idea I'm leaning toward is running it something like with the Xmas story, where it's two separate stories within the same book. So the idea is, you do the first story, so it's like the first story in the book would just be the camping story, and then when that ties up, then you do just Alex at home story. Let's see. The idea, if I go with that format, um, two another two stories in one book, then I think the overall book will be called Vacation. Sherbet House Vacation. The first part with the family camping would be called In the Woods, and then the second one with Alex at home. Like the title Home Alone pops into my mind, and it's probably the most appropriate. But it's like already the name of a famous movie, so I really don't want to call it that. So it'll probably be either just simply alone or man alone. And it's like I said, brain like I find myself brainstorming Alex's side of the story more than the rest of the families. Primarily, probably because of the adventure aspect. Um, the In the Woods story will just it's probably one of those where you just kind of pop in whatever adventure element feels right at the time. It's one of those that you can just kind of make up. I can make up as I go. Whereas, um, I think with Alex's story, it's like the opportunity for a lot of jokes. So the idea is you start kind of brainstorming the gags, the jokes, the comedy, that sort of thing. Um, you know what? I can move these together. Is this going to be too close? Oh no, that's perfect. Because then it's kind of like each person gets backdrop behind this sort of thing. So it's like some of the ideas that have been popping in my head, and like I said, I'm not really thinking about working on this yet, so I don't know which ideas will make it. Some of these will get tossed, some of these will end up getting included, some might get reworked, blah blah blah. But this is more of a what if kind of scenario rather than this is how it will be. But so I'm kind of thinking like with the parents gone, with the rest of the family gone, and that sort of thing. Like I'm thinking like Alex gets the idea to sort of use his parents' little sauna. The idea like he's never like neither he nor any of the other kids were ever allowed to use it before. So it's like, yes. And even being an adult, they never like the idea is like they never thought to let him use it as an adult. But I'm thinking that's like one of the things is he kind of decides to sort of sneak use of it while they're not around. And I think that's where like his friends come in. It's like it sounds good in theory, but maybe that's where it gets boring. Like, this isn't as much fun when it's just myself. So maybe that's like when he starts calling his friends. And then it's like the idea with Simon, I think where I play him up is having like a degree of insecurity around like Alex and the other jocks. I think his time, his appearance will all be like all about playing on those insecurities. So it's like where he wants to use the sauna, he calls him over, and then basically makes him get into a pair of swim trunks. So the idea is like, so it's like once they get into it, it's more like you've got like small, underdeveloped Simon getting half naked with like the muscular jock Alex. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. Let's see. It's like the idea is like if like when you're a teenager, if you weren't really confident with your body, you kind of were scared to take your shirt off when you go in swimming. That sort of, that's kind of like, that's the kind of like feeling I'm going with, or I'm thinking of going with. Narrow is what I want. Actually, let's find favorite again. Hmm. Okay, that's good. Of course, while they're both teenagers, they're still both, at this point in the story, in the universe, they're both adults. So I think, and then too, like, I think too, and then you play into it as Simon is feeling weirded out that Alex wants to hang out with him instead of other jock friends. Okay, I get it. Steve was a freak like you. Sheesh. If I put, yeah, okay, if I get Steve to the next line, then okay. And I'm thinking there has to be a scene or two with Giant Simon either breaking something or knocking something down over. Uh, but I think mostly, like I said, the story wouldn't really Well, I don't think Vacation, Shrimp of the House 12, whatever you want to think of it as right now, while it won't really deal with any serious with while it really won't deal with issues like some of the other stories, there's not really going to be any serious problem that they're facing as far, any personal or family problems that they're going to be facing. um, I think I am sort of going to use this as a vehicle to kind of announce some changes to. Let me think, how do I want to say this? Sort of announce some changes in their world without kind of wasting the space to um, I don't want to say show it because then because you violate the policy of like show don't tell, and it's not that I don't want to show, but it's like sometimes it's like if it's information, it's not really relevant that it has to be shown. Yeah, and I'm probably confusing you guys since you don't know what I'm talking about specifically, but it's the idea is information that I want to get across that'll be a lot it'll take up a lot less space to just have a character mention something than to spend a page portraying it. So it's like, for example, because I've been talking about, I think in sort of the videos for Recall, I've been talking about how I want sort of Alex on a long term path to marrying, that I'm going to end up, that it's like I'm going to hook him up with, he's basically going to be the sister of a coworker, is who he's going to end up with. So it's the idea is like you kind of have to break up him and Monique to do that. So it's like that'll be one of those things where instead of having to devote the time to dealing with the breakup, you just kind of hand wave it. Like he invites Simon over, and Simon's like, "Don't you have a girlfriend? Why don't you invite her over?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, me and Monique broke up before." That sort of thing. You just kind of mention it, so it's like I'm sort of going to use this story to explain that Alex and Monique broke up without making it a lot of drama. Sort of like who was the last girl he was with? Oh yeah, I broke up with that girl. Kind of like, plus two, if you don't show the breakup, if you don't show the drama of it, then it kind of it basically tells the reader that or it's sort of like I want to, I want to signal to the reader that it wasn't really that serious a relationship to begin with. If it's not worth showing that, and I think that's what I want to get across too, is that if I'm looking to pair him up, with marriage material, then I want to get across that she wasn't, for whatever reason, she's not, she's not the marriage material. So basically, what I'm going to do is let's take constrained proportions off. And let's go 8 by 10, right? So basically, that's what. Actually, can I? So I'm not actually going to render this right now. So it's the idea is I just kind of want to hand wave Alex and Monique breaking up. And at the same time, I know this might seem weird with the focus I've put on this, but I kind of want to mention that these two are going to break up as well. So it's going to be funny that I'm making just for the sake of argument, I'll call these prom pictures, even though this isn't technically the prom, but it's going to be weird that like these two broke up shortly after this dance, and she's keeping the pictures around. But then again, I want to kind of portray it as sort of like as well. They weren't as serious as David thought, as David was expecting. Because after all, this is like a junior high crush, so. So that's the picture. Let me do this to expand, and I want to grab both their heads. Where is his head? And we're going to focus on the heads, and then zoom out from there. Oh. Raise them up. And you know what, actually? Collapse all. What I'm going to do is put them in a group, and then I think the group goes 0, right? Okay. So that's the image I want, and let's do it spot on. So, and then they're going to be looking at the camera. I'm going to have his mouth open. Okay, you're still a ways to go. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, this is slowing down. I'm going to do like a smile open. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do it slightly downward. Because it does look odd. So that's the image I'm going with, but I think zoom out just a little. So something like that. That's going to be our prom picture, the dance. So it's the idea is, I mean, it's one thing that it's one thing when she's dating an older kid when they're in the same school. I think once he moves to high school, it's that's when it kind of crosses the line from sort of funny, from being funny watching David overreact to this to being actually slightly creepy. So again, I'm going to kind of hand wave their breakup, plus two, like being middle school. You're just kind of fooling around and dealing with crushes, and like usually these relationships aren't that serious. Usually, see, the thing is, like, even though I'm rendering with separate render images, so this would be in OpenGL, whereas this one is in 3Delight. And even though it's two different programs, whereas this one's the sort of official release of Daz, whereas this one I'm working in the beta version, so that they're operating independent, so that these two are operating independently from each other. Um, I still can't actually render both at once. So if I go to hit render on this one, it will hang and wait until this one is done before it actually starts to work. Oh my god, why is this taking so long? Okay, that was unusual. This one took 20 minutes. So far, since I've in the last 2.5 pages, they've only been taken roughly 10 minutes, sometimes a little bit less. I don't know if it's just having that second, but the second Daz window open. I don't know. I had it open on the previous 2 pages, working on something else, and wasn't seeing this. So who knows? You know what? I wonder if this would work better up here. Yeah. So, one thing you might have noticed, and I kind of want to mention it to you guys, even though it shouldn't, even though like I don't really expect it's going to affect those of you subscribing on Patreon and digesting my stories that way. But I feel like you should know anyway that you may have noticed that I did put, when I put Shrimp the House Recall on Amazon, I did put it up for a higher price than I normally would have. And then I went back and raised the price on both the Xmas Special and Burn Pit on Amazon. Um, it's so far I've left the prices alone on DeviantArt. Did I invert that? No. But it's kind of one thing. It's sort of like one thing that's been kind of bugging me a little bit is that with these projects kind of going slower and slower and taking gradually longer to get through. It has been in the back of my mind that for those of you subscribing monthly and support, on Patreon, um, it is starting to cost a little bit more per project than when I started out on this. So I think I was deciding with, I think starting with this one, I was deciding that going forward, and like I said, I did kind of retroactively include Burn Pit and the Xmas special in on this, but I think going forward, I am gonna, I am gonna raise the prices on Amazon for future projects a little bit to kind of to reflect that. So the idea is like, I'd rather you guys subscribe on Patreon and support me that way than you know buying buying the books through Amazon, because I get more of the dollar goes to me rather than the platform. So when you buy from Amazon, Amazon takes a huge chunk of that book price, whereas it's not so much on Patreon. So the idea is I kind of want Patreon to be a little bit more of a value for that reason. And same thing with DeviantArt. Anybody who like wants to buy through DeviantArt, um, more of the purchase price goes to me than to the site. So it's like I can charge quite a bit less on DeviantArt and still make the same amount as I would on Amazon. Or sometimes I can give or I guess depending on the project, sometimes it works out to where I'm actually making more on DeviantArt, even though the customer is paying less, just because of Amazon's royalty. Let's see. Actually, hold on one second. He left because he lost his job and was too ashamed of. I don't want to say this. I was gonna say he's too ashamed to face me, but I don't want to. I don't. Clearly, he wasn't too ashamed to face him if she knows why and they broke up. That's a little better. He left me because he lost his job and was too ashamed to marry me after that. So I mean, it's like it's. I mean, I guess if you're curious how I price this, how I price the stories on Amazon, my general thinking was that I take the number of parts in a story, um, and I take the number of parts in a story, charge 99 cents per part, but give the first two parts free. If that makes sense. But the thing with Amazon is, I think because of the file sizes of these projects, where these aren't regular text stories; these are picture books. So the file sizes you already know are massive compared to like maybe just a regular prose book. So it's I get stuck taking the 35% royalty over the larger royalty, whatever it is, 60%, 70%, because at the larger royalty, Amazon basically rapes me on the delivery fee, whereas Amazon doesn't charge the delivery fee at the 35% royalty rate. So it's on on pretty much all these books. I actually get more money if I through the 35% royalty rate than if I were to choose the 70%. But at the 30%, 35% rate, because of the file size of these books, Amazon will not let me charge less than $2.99. Whereas if I was selling a prose book without the pictures and I had, a regular file size under a megabyte, like maybe a few hundred kilobytes, Amazon would let me charge 99 cents at the 35% rate. So, while I say, my standard thinking is that I'm basically charging 99 cents per 24 pages, 25 pages, however you want to look at it, per part, and giving and sort of like pricing it down so that two are free. Um, it doesn't work. It doesn't work on anything less than 5 parts. So on like all those 3 and 4 part stories, like I'm stuck charging $2.99. I can't charge 99 cents or $1.99. But on the larger books, like with Burn Pit 8 parts, I was charging $5.99, $6, basically like 8 parts, but two free, so 6 parts. So you're paying for 6 parts, that sort of thing. But it's like not exactly. So I keep it at the 99 cent instead of, whatever it would be, like 94. Just to keep the numbers even. Yeah, I know I overthink it, but so I'm basically like going forward, anything, my thinking now is because these are taking longer and like I'm pretty sure there's less value to you guys on Patreon. My thinking is to charge the full dollar per part straight through, without the discounts. So that's why, oops, that's why Recall with 7 parts went up for $6.99, basically $7. That's why I priced Burn Pit upward at $7.99, basically $8. Um, the Xmas special went up to $3.99, 4 parts for $4. That sort of, so on. Um, it's sort of, I mean, I've been thinking for a long time that maybe I'm not charging enough, but in general, but my thinking is, I'm not, I don't think of myself as being that strong of an artist. I don't think these are really on a, like I tend to think they're not really on a caliber of sort of a professional comic like you might see out of like Marvel or DC or something like that. So, I kind of always wanted the price to reflect that like, even for an indie, like maybe they're not as good as, the professional stuff out there, but you're paying accordingly, that sort of thing. But I'm thinking as I'm becoming a little more sophisticated, kind of getting a little better with visual work. Oh, what am I doing? Select invert. Excuse me. And two is it's taking more and more time to get through a story because it's just like you see, it's taking longer and longer to render images as they get more complicated. That I can, kind of realistically think to kind of creep prices up. But still, like those earlier works, I'm not going to expect you to pay something that's like a little more amateurish than what I'm putting out now. Oh, and I just realized, sort of like talking with you guys and just kind of like her reason for Steve leaving was just kind of like a spur of the moment thing. It just, it kind of just struck me that that's basically what he's going through. He just lost his job. Oh. Um, let's see, what do we want to do? So I think I'll close out the page with a nod to that. Excuse me. I can't tell if you're serious or making. Oh, there we go. Yes. And I have to say too that I've been kind of feeling like I'm headed for a rut. Let's see if I can see if I can make this make sense. But it's kind of like I've been headed. I feel like I've been heading for a point where I'm running out of ideas. I guess that kind of makes sense. Um, it's like as I've been thinking of it, I wasn't there yet, but it's like one of those things where you can kind of see on the horizon that it's coming. that the idea, because I hate to do the same thing over and over again. I try to um, I kind of try to make these projects somewhat different from each other, even if, like with Shrimp of the House, the premise is basically the same. And I think even though, like, I was talking about all through that story that, to an extent, Recall was meant to be a throwback to the very first story. It was still different. I have to say there was a little bit more of a focus on the drama outside of the size change aspect than you saw in the first one. Um, and it's like Little Bro still remains popular. Um, and it's kind of like I really, it's like I really don't want to do another, like sort of sibling watches main character watches his sibling outgrow him like that. You kind of want to take different premises with the muscle growth stuff. So it's like I've had a bunch of different premises and different ideas. Even that I've brainstormed a few with on the macrophilia side. Like I said, the short tails have been out there. This was a fun idea that came to me at sort of like right before I started it. But it feels like, or I should say, it did feel like there was a wall coming. Like the ideas were running out. Like I was basically running out the clock, so to speak. It's like I'm sort of working until the last idea, and then there would be a point where you're kind of stretching for an idea, but saying that, I feel like I sort of feel like working on Recall, and as I was talking about throughout that story, like on just about every video, like I think coming up with the story involving Alex possibly failing high school kind of opened up like a lot of possibilities with that series that have basically like sort of like have basically canceled off that thought of running out of ideas. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, that was and that was the other thing. Like I guess as part of that, I have to say that I was really feeling that with the Shrimp of the House series itself. That I think maybe um, I can't really say at what point it was now that I think about it, but it felt like for a while now that I was just at a point where I couldn't really do anything new with that series. That series was basically stale. That maybe it was time to kind of quietly retire work on it and move on. But even that one, like again, I think Recall, like for me, has completely rejuvenated that series. I think is giving it sort of a new long term direction. And kind of honestly slightly rethinking what to do with it. Has I think guaranteed that it's going to go on for another 3 years at least. And like I said, I've really got story number 12 kind of blowing up in my head right now, taking over, and I did have the idea that story number story number 13, like, well, I haven't really brainstormed it. I haven't really done a lot of brainstorming on it, but I've got a general idea of what I want to do. And I know I've mentioned this one a couple of times too, but it's the idea is because it's the 13th issue, I want to call it Shrimp of the House 13. And because it's going to coincide with the fall story, I want to sort of make it a Halloween issue, sort of, but not really. The premise being that since it's Halloween, one of the kids is telling a horror story to the rest of them, and and the book basically becomes that story where instead of instead of the story being about the Smith family, the story is actually what one of the kids is telling, whereas the Smith family is sort of filling in for the characters in that kid's story. Like you sometimes see it on TV shows when a character is just telling a fictional story to the rest of the characters, and like all the characters are basically representing characters in that story. That's what I want to do with Shrimp of the House 13, and basically like I said, make it a horror story. But I don't really have any idea. And my original thought was that it would be Aiden telling the story, so you get something a little more fantastical. But I'm almost wondering, since I think Allie doesn't usually come to the forefront, I'm thinking maybe Allie's the one that tells the story. Or another possibility is I sort of, once again do something like the Xmas story, and what I'm planning to do with Vacation is it's basically multiple stories in one, where two or three of the kids tell different stories, and it's basically like the two or three stories lumped together. You see one story unfold, then you're seeing another one. Although I'm honestly not leaning toward that, because it falls again if you use, if you're stuck, if you're using the macrophilius um, to basically drive that story in a story. It's like, it's like, how do you do it differently across three different stories and stories? Without each kid basically retelling the same story. So I'd probably lean towards just one of the kids telling a horror story. But I do have to say, like, thinking of story number 12, The Way I Am, one of the things that's been kind of, I think, on my mind is that while I wanted to keep Alex on the canvas, and like even before I came up with the idea for Recall, the idea was that he would go to state and commute from home to keep him on the canvas, keep him in universe, keep him from getting written off and forgotten about. I think with Recall and sort of the direction I'm going with him, I'm almost thinking, I'm thinking it has the potential of Alex taking over the entire series. And the challenge I'm going to have is kind of making sure it's balanced, especially when I get to the point where Alex moves out. Where I think what I want to do down the line is that, like, is the whole family moves out of that house, and they end up buying two separate houses next door to each other. So even though Alex moves out, he's basically living like right next door, and they're all visiting any time they want. That's the challenge with that one. And that was like another idea that's been kind of played with once or twice in my head was that, what is this? 34. Is this? No. All I could figure is I must have typed the wrong number, but oh well. So that was one idea. An idea I was toying with was that that's what I go through going forward. Is that each book is like 2 stories per book, one an Alex centric story and one Smith family proper centric. But again, that feels like it gets old, and I'm not leaning toward doing that frequently at all. But oh my god, hit it, undo, undo. I'm moving over just a little bit. But I think what's going to happen, and honestly, like, I kind of can't wait. It's going to be like 2 or 3 years before I ever get to that point. It's not just, it's not just going to be 2 years off in universe. It's going to be 2 to 3 years off before I even get to write the point where he actually has the baby. And I honestly, like, I can't wait for that. Like, it's like I'm kind of anxious to actually have that part of the universe. But I'm thinking what I'm thinking what's going to happen when it reaches that point is, in order to keep it from becoming the Alex show, in order to keep it integrated, is I'm already thinking that, um, it's going to be, I'm thinking it's going to be a situation where both Alex and his wife are working. It's kind of not, I kind of don't want to make it the same scenario with his parents where, like, where they're both at, it's like they're both at home. And to make it worse, Liz is like the stay at home mom, wife, whatever. Okay, that's right, I think. So what I'm, and being so far away, like, it can really change. But, what I'm thinking is both parents will work, and and you'll see like Alex's parents kind of watching the kid most of the time. See, so that way the baby ends up in the main family household, and you see his uncles and aunt um, interacting with him a lot more than like you would think. Let's see, export. Oh well, I've been babbling on, and this video has been going on, and we're just about done. Let's pop those in there, and then grab the page, and let's see what it looks like. Come on. Oh my god. Actually, Steve loved when I shrunk him. He loved to run across my giant body, hiding between my breasts, exploring those hidden regions. And it was magical feeling those little hands and feet pattering across my skin. Okay, I get it. Steve was a freak like you. Sheesh. He left me because he lost his job and was too ashamed to marry me after that. Can't tell if you're serious or you're making fun of me. So I gotta fix this. Control V. This is supposed to be feet, not feel. Feet. And I'm pretty sure pattering is spelled wrong, but I'll look it up later and fix it in the editing phase if it is. Let's save. Image. Flatten, and then we'll just export to page 8. And that is page 8. I will see you next time. I know this story was a long time coming, and I hope it's worth it. And I thank you for your support.